Here's a raft formation of survival balls in the ocean, floating, communicating, exchanging nutrients, differentiating function. Last of all, this is literally thousands of survival balls dancing through the streets.
And we'll be happy to take any questions. So if there are any more technical ones for Northrop here, or general ones. Yep.
I mean, in my mind, this clearly also plays right into terrorist attacks. What kind of defense mechanisms do you envision against biological, chemical, radiological attack?
If you could demonstrate the turtle position, please, that would be great. Basically, if you duck down...
I'll assume they'll have some kind of bubble mask or something.
Yeah, visor, heads-up display, the whole thing.
That's very cool. So. To me, it was just the way it fit was probably if you're ever going to make them so people want to wear them for a long time, you'd have more cushioning or something. Yeah. But I can imagine they'd be pretty darn expensive to make yours really market them.
Well, yeah.
Although I guess the people who will need them, most of the, the price should be no object, right? And if you're getting them for, say, the
that's right.
cabinet, to pick a,
Hi. Northrop.
Gary, how are you? It's very interesting. One of the things that we're trying to do is modeling of terrorism around the world. So, and this is clearly, something that plays right into that kind of an event.
Well, it does. That's it. It's supposed
much more so than, Katrina.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, in the event that things got... We'd done all we could to show these people what sucked about letting greed run our future.
Oh dear.
But instead of freaking out, they just took our business cards.
Well, wonderful, and if you want to take one of mine here.
Our effort had been a failure.
It's not very well articulated, really.
And come to think of it, all of our efforts had been failures. But a yes man never gives up. We knew we could do it. All we needed was a whole new approach. Maybe making fun of stupid ideas was a stupid idea. We had to get smart, because the people with the really stupid ideas were very, very smart. For Friedman and his followers, disaster was not just a chance to get rich, but an opportunity to push through all kinds of unpopular policies, like privatizing public schools, shutting down public hospitals, and kicking people out of their homes. This is the Lafitte Housing Project. It survived Katrina intact. That was lucky for the thousands of residents who wanted to come home and rebuild. So what did the government do? They decided to tear it down.
The disaster for us started after the storm. When people found out that you were going to be marooned in a strange foreign city, wanting to come home, and the government was going to take your home away.
This was hours before the storm. When storms happen everywhere else, people get a chance to go back home. This home to us. Why they gonna take away our pride and joy? They don't know what people going through.
The whole city that sort of washed away. Now you got to rebuild the whole thing. So part of what this was is if you ever had an idea that you couldn't get through before the storm, well, the storm meant that everything was, tossed salad. So if this idea had been roundly rejected by the city and by voters and whatever, but now's your chance to sneak on in.
When residents tried to come home after Katrina, they found themselves locked out by HUD, the U.S. government's Department of Housing and Urban Development.
The federal government came up with a program to dismantle public housing and privatize it. And that's what we're doing. And so you've got to develop a nice community so that the poor have an opportunity to live in an environment where people work, that they're part of the American dream. And you'll get a number of folks that are not used to the type of lifestyle that we all live, where trash is thrown on the ground or cursing off of the balcony.
And the idea really is to provide role models, essentially, for poor folks, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
On the BBC, we tried to show that companies could behave differently, and we learned that they couldn't until government made rules to control them. Yet even here in New Orleans, where help was most needed, government was also drinking the free market Kool-Aid.
I believe in a market-driven process. Economics, capitalism is going to take over, and the marketplace is poised to respond.
So the government didn't believe in government. We knew what we had to do. We would become the government, and we would find out what would happen if government did the right thing.
We are preparing to go to the Gulf Coast Reconstruction Conference at the Pontchartrain Center in Kenner near the airport.
You shouldn't drive.
Okay.
Somebody else should drive.
Here. So it's almost like we should be saying we are facing a state of emergency. I'm going to speak as HUD, as the Deputy Assistant of the Secretary of HUD, who couldn't make it, and CNN is going to be covering it live.
This conference was taking place on the first anniversary of Katrina. 1,000 contractors who were rebuilding New Orleans would be there.
What's that?
Megan's coming, Mayor Nagin.
Oh my God. Mayor Ray Nagin coming just a bit more than we expected would happen.
When we'd hatched our scheme, we told this guy, the conference organizer, that we represented Alphonso Jackson, the head of HUD. When the mayor and governor found out that Jackson would be there, they had to be there too. Once again, the keynote speaker wouldn't show up, but his assistant would. Would the mayor notice that something was wrong? And what would the contractors think of HUD's radical new approach to public housing, an approach that could cost them money and even put some of them out of a job?
Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
So it's an honor to share the stage with our two partners in recovery, with Renee Osmond representing HUD, who's definitely one of our most important partners in this rebuilding effort, and Mayor Nagin of New Orleans, whose challenges are enormous.
And I also want to stop and thank Renee, who's here from HUD. HUD has been an incredible, incredible partner with us. We are on the verge of doing some really unique things, some things that we could have never tackled in the city of New Orleans. And now we are poised and positioned to enhance public housing in the city of New Orleans. You know, there's lots of information out there, there's lots of misinformation out there, you know, but I have a fundamental belief that truth and lie cannot stay in the same place at the same time. Reminds me of a story I once heard. Truth and lie went swimming one day in Lake Pontchartrain. They went skinny dipping, so they laid their clothes on the banks, and they were out there having a really good time. And then lie all of a sudden jumped out the water, put Truth's clothes on, and started running down Esplanade, Elysian Fields Avenue. Truth got out the water, started running after lie. So, ladies and gentlemen, what you had was a well-dressed lie being chased by naked truth.
It's quite a tough act to follow, nothing like that to make you feel a bit naked, eh? Dear friends, it is with the greatest joy that I announce to you today a brand new Department of Housing and Urban Development. Everything is going to change about the way we work, and the change is going to start right here today in New Orleans. Until last week, our MO here at HUD was to tear down public housing